They seem to have
So
some kind of linguistic structure.
I asked you if they exist. You said they exist.
Yeah,
Great,
we
they have
know that they
existence.
exist
Then let me ask you
because
questions. Let me ask you questions. Look, I don't want to have you talk because you just go on forever. They exist, but they exist not as mental and they exist not as physical. Uh, okay. How does something? Okay, tell me what kind of other existence is there like that? I mean, tell me.
well, again, I don't necessarily know that, and I don't
Then
see
why
why I
should I
need.
believe you when you say propositions exist, but we don't have any idea what they
I
are?
told you
They just
why you.
exist.
I told you why you should
No, you
believe.
have used. No, I haven't addressed on purposely because I want to see what you think they are. And you draw improper conclusions. I want to know what you think they are. I'm trying to understand this idea of propositions very, very well. And I was doing some reading after our last discussion about this. To be perfectly honest, I couldn't understand what these guys are saying. And not because I'm stupid, but because they weren't clear in how they were describing things. Like, that doesn't make sense. I read something else. That doesn't make sense. They're not exactly saying the same thing. I don't think they actually know what they are. This is why they talk in generalities about what they're not. If you talk about what they're not, you can say whatever you want them to say to some degree. But if I know what they are, then I can discuss what it is. I like to discuss something from what it actually is, not from what it's not. I don't want to have an argument based upon what things are not. I want to have an argument based upon what things are, because that's what we're talking about, these objects. But you don't even know what they are. You can't even tell me what they are. You can only say what they're not. And if you don't know what they are, then they could have properties that you may not have information about, and they could have properties that could contradict what you're thinking because you don't know what it is. That's why I keep asking you the same question, which you won't answer.
Again, right? We understand that there is something in virtue of which two people are having the same thought, right? Similarly, there's something in virtue of which two people are expressing the same meanings, right? Even if they're speaking different languages. So if I say it's raining outside and somebody else who speaks German says es regnet and somebody else who speaks French says il pleut, right? They're all expressing the same thought even though they speak different languages, right? Now, we also know that that thing, which is the content of the thought, right, the proposition, that is what it is I'm holding to be true, right? If I believe that it is raining outside, I'm holding it to be true that the proposition, it is raining outside, is true, right? That proposition, right, can't itself be mental because that would involve us in a vicious infinite regress, right? Now, given that we can accept your considerations, right, that such things are not physical, right, which I'm prepared to grant, right, it must mean that there's something else besides the mental and the physical, right, which is what propositions are, a type of abstract object like numbers. Now, that doesn't mean that we can say much more positively about what the ontology of things like propositions and numbers are, right? But the point is, they're essential for us to make sense of things like having common thoughts, common beliefs, right? Or common meanings expressed by our utterances. That's the role that they serve in our ontology, right? And because we cannot reduce that role to something physical or to something mental, right? And because we cannot eliminate the postulation of such objects, right? Because we must have an account of there being common thoughts and common meanings, right? Which can be expressed, right? We're ontologically committed to saying there are such things as propositions. Now, given that that's the case,
I don't need
right,
a
that there are
lecture. I
such
don't need a
things as
lecture.
propositions, right, or
Hey,
that we're at least committed to thinking that there are propositions, and given that we have an argument that establishes that they're neither mental nor physical, right, is just not going to follow that because there are abstract things that presupposes a transcendent mind, right? Because that's to presume a type of conceptualism which we've already raised an argument against, an argument that has not been defeated.
Are propositions mind independent?
Yeah,
How do they relate to the mind?
I don't think we know that much about them. They're what we mean,
Just say you
right?
don't know.
When we
Just
say we
yeah,
hold a
yeah, 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 yeah.
proposition.
Stop. Look, I'm afraid to ask you any question because you go on for 5 minutes. Seriously.
Look, maybe godly-ish or the realistic nihilist would like to talk. Maybe they're actually they have similar views, I think, and maybe they're
See,
more
even now you're just going on and on. I'm not, dude. I mean, seriously. I'm afraid to ask you a question because you're going to go on for 5 minutes. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, but this is what you do.
Matt, if we hold you to 1 minute responses for both of you, I think you'll be sorely disappointed at how many times you'll be prevented from speaking. I don't think you realize how similar you are to Jim when it comes to monologuing.
Well, whatever your opinion is. So the guy I was just talking to, do you know how propositions relate to the mind?
Well, again, if I say, right, that what the nature of an intentional state is, that it's an attitude towards a proposition, right? So in the case of a belief, for example, it's the attitude of holding the proposition true. And in the case of a desire, it's wanting the proposition to be true, right? I don't know if that's going to satisfy you, but I'm not sure there's really that much more I can say.
I just asked a question. Do you know how propositions relate
Yeah,
to
well,
the
I just
world, to the
told you
mind?
I told you a couple of things that I
Do
know
you
about.
know
Yeah, I told you a couple of things that I know about how propositions relate to the mind.
what's 2 plus 2?
Why are you asking that?
What's 2 plus 2?
4.
So you can answer a direct question simply.
Yeah, I think actually the last couple answers have been pretty direct.
Yeah, he's been getting better, but I will tell you guys that
Well, do you want to respond to what he said?
I need to tell you guys that when someone does that, particularly someone, how do I say this without being mean or rude? I'm not trying to be. I tune out. I just wait for it to be over.
Look, the
I need,
last answer was under 30 seconds. I think
yeah,
I
yeah.
surely
think
we all have.
Josh or Vic should take over.
Okay, hold on. Look, if you guys want me to sit here and listen to a lecture and say now respond, it's not a college class, a graduate level class where I have to sit and give a lecture.
Josh is coming, and can we limit responses to like a minute each, please?
Yeah, I
Okay, so
can
I was
limit
saying,
responses to that if that's what's desired.
so what I was saying was, I just tune out when someone keeps doing the same thing over and over, particularly when I ask a specific question and can't get an answer.